everyone, and welcome back to Rec to Redeem, where we confront the complex realities of racism and faith. If this is your first time here and that type of savor is your type of flavor, please consider subscribing. This is part 2 of a series that we're doing currently on colorblindness. If you have not seen part 1, I will link it up right here so that you guys can go and check that out. And today, we'll be talking about how colorblindness could be negatively affecting your relationships. People who consider themselves to be racially colorblind are everywhere. There are family members, friends, co-workers, bosses, church leaders, what have you. And once you, and I'm talking to you if you are a person of color or if you're just a person who is aware and sensitive to racism, once you come into contact with that part of a person, it can honestly rub you the wrong way, for real. So I decided to ask one of my beloved viewers, thank you, girl, to share her story around this subject. I wanted to give her experience a voice to help us all to better understand how there are real relational consequences to quote unquote not seeing race. She did not want to be identified, so we are going to just call her Hannah. Let's call her Hannah. Prick your ears up, people. It's story time. All right, so this is what she said, y'all. I think this basically falls into two camps. People who call a racial colorblindness and try way too hard to be, quote unquote, down for the cause, and people who don't necessarily put a term to it, but they express the same mentality. I don't think I have anyone who could fall into the first camp, but I do have a few white friends I would say are a part of the latter. One friend in particular is currently dating an African-American man, which I don't think she actively looked for one or anything, but some of the things they say to each other makes me uneasy. I would even say that he has the same type of thought pattern. He is always trying to, quote unquote, teach her black things, which is one thing to want to explain your culture and the importance of certain things, but it does not seem like that is what he is trying to do. It's usually some sort of joke. I met them at an event and they were talking about how he was, quote unquote, the darkest out of all of us. And she proceeded to take a picture with her phone of us to look at the color difference. I would say that thinking these types of actions are jokes really downplays the struggle that went on and is still ongoing with colorism within the community. I think this would have been a teachable moment for him. I could have also said something, but for some reason it didn't fully register until after the fact. Just because she is dating someone black and he is dating someone white doesn't mean they both shouldn't recognize that some things are still inappropriate. It makes me very wary and uncomfortable around them, honestly. I feel more uncomfortable around my white friend because her racial colorblindness has me noticing her microaggressions and racist remarks that she makes pretty regularly. I think the relationship is pretty strained on my end because of this. Being around her can become quite taxing when you feel like you just have to prepare to be offended. I don't need that over brunch. Heck no. No. When I read this email, I was so incredibly annoyed. I was peeved for the very reason that Hannah pointed out. It was because the struggle and the pain the Black community has experienced at the hands of racism, and the byproduct of that, a product of that being colorism, that was being made light of. It was being made into a joke. It was being made into a source of entertainment. And that disgusted me. You're a black man with a white girlfriend, and this is how you are allowing for her to degrade the people of our race. I wanted to touch on different ways that colorblindness affects our relationships. Now, for this relationship, she did not recognize that what she was doing was oppressive. Colorism is a practice of discrimination against skin tone. It started back in slavery. The children of slave owners, they were treated more favorably. They were given domestic work while the darker slaves worked in the field. When you get to the 19th century, there was a practice that came along called the paper bag test. It was the comparing of one's skin tone to a paper bag. And that would be a determining factor in hiring processes for jobs. They would even do the paper bag test before they would even look at your credentials, look at your skill set, your experience. That would be the test that would determine whether or not you would get hired, get a promotion, or any other employment decisions. And it was even later adopted by the Black community, so much so that it was used as a determinant to see who would get certain privileges, fraternities and sororities, and even in church. And this is crazy, because when I learned about that, I was like, are you kidding me? I already knew, of course, like there were white churches, there were Black churches, but I did not know that people use the paper bag test to determine who would be allowed in which Black church. So when you would arrive to this church, they would have a paper bag there. And if you were darker than this paper bag, you could not fellowship there. Other churches actually did something called a comb test, where they would take a fine-tooth comb. If your hair could not pass through, then you could not fellowship at that church either. According to behavioral scientists, whites and Blacks are more favorably disposed to lighter skin. They found that white and Black folk believe that people with lighter skin are smarter, wealthier, and even happier. They even did a study where they gave participants 60 photos. Some of those photos were pictures of individuals with lighter skin, and some were of people with darker skin. However, there were photos mixed in there where it would be the same person, but their skin tone was altered. At the end of the study, they found that the participants rated the intelligence of the darker photos as lower. Let's not even forget to mention the fact that lighter skin is the beauty standard of the world. Skin lightening is a multi-billion-dollar industry globally. They want to sell to the consumer the idea that lighter skin is achievable and is preferable. Here's a paper bag. I never want to look at I don't want to see myself. I honestly have gone through the house to try to find a brown paper bag. And when I found it, I didn't want to look at my skin next to it because I wanted to, have the reaction here. So, I'm kind of scared. All right, I'm just gonna put this here. I'm not gonna see. I'm starting to think about oh wow, I'm starting to get emotional. Oh no. I remember when my mom would pack me lunches in brown paper bags. One day, sitting in the cafeteria, my hand was resting on the bag, and I remember looking down at the bag and realizing that my hand was a little bit darker than the bag, and I didn't like it. That symbolizes so much. And I know I'm not light-skinned, and I'm obviously not dark-skinned. I know I'm medium tone, but I at least thought that I would just be the tone of the bag. I don't know why that was my expectation, but as I was thinking about the relational consequences of not seeing race, all of that history affects our self-worth. You see that example with what Hannah shared. Instead of upholding their dignity, you choose to make a spectacle of their skin tone. You choose to be entertained by who you can find to be the lightest or the darkest. Why would anybody want to be around that? Like, I mean, Hannah said, I don't want to deal with that over bridge. She said that she has to be prepared to be offended. So who really wants to deal with that? Not only do we not want to deal with that, we don't want to build relationships with that. We don't feel emotionally safe with you. We can't be mentally safe with you, because when it comes to matters that are only skin deep, you show yourself to be a person who's untrustworthy. We are people in the process of healing. So instead of being a part of the problem by perpetuating colorism in your relationships, if this is something that you find yourself doing, I encourage you to instead do some self-reflection. Do you favor lighter-skinned people? If after doing self-reflection, you find that you have, I encourage you to let 2 Corinthians 10:5 be your guide. All right, y'all. I enjoyed this time with you today. Thank you again, Hannah, for sharing your story with all of us today. Have you ever experienced colorism in your friendships? Let me know your stories in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell, because next time we'll be talking about how colorblindness affects your relationships from the perspective of a Black male. Continue to strive to love your God and your neighbor better. Till next time, y'all. Peace.